My name is Courtney Lee, and today I am going to be discussing two different content areas with you. The first area of discussion is going to be on phonemic awareness. The second topic of discussion today is on phonological awareness. If you are tuning in with me today, that means that you are a family or a friend that is wanting to learn a little bit more about your child's education, a little bit more about ways to help them, and just kind of what we do in school. So today I wanted to talk about these two topics with you to just let you in on a little bit about what we really do at school and why what we do is so important. So the first topic for discussion is phonemic awareness. Don't let that word scare you. It's pretty big. First, what we're going to do is we are going to go into the definition, and then I'm going to dissect it for you, and we are going to talk about what that means. So phonemic awareness is the ability to focus and manipulate individual sounds. Phonemes are the smallest units comprising of the spoken language. So, in simpler terms, what that basically means is that individual sounds make up words. So you have letters, each letter makes a sound, and those sounds put together make words. You can blend those single sounds together to make those whole words. So that's pretty much phonemic awareness in a nutshell. To give some examples of what phonemic awareness looks like in the classroom, I have some listed for you. The first thing I have is it is going to be recognizing words in a set of words that start with the same beginning sound. So for example, I have boy, boat, and big. So what we do in the classroom is we really want to focus on finding individual letters within our words. So we're dissecting our words and getting the children to really focus on just single letters. So a lot of times what we'll get them to do is find words that start with the same beginning sound. So for this example, all of these words start with B. That is ideally what we're going to want the kids to realize, is that all these words start with B. They might not know what those words are or what they say, and they don't need to. We are just showing them that they all start with the same beginning letter. Another way is determining the first and last sound in a word. So for an example here, I have pen. When we show them this word, we are wanting to get them to look at that first letter P and that last letter N. That's going to let them see that this word is a whole by itself, and it's letting them know it has a beginning and an end. That beginning sound is what they're going to look for when they're first trying to read that word. But we also want to show them that it has an ending sound that shows them where to stop, and it shows them to ideally get to the point to where they're reading the whole word and not just looking at that first letter sound. The next thing is combining or blending separate sounds in a word to say a word. So I have chip, dog, and frog as examples. So chip, it has two different blends in it. It has CH, which says ch, and then IP, that's one of our word families, it says ip. When you put ch and ip together, slide that all together, you get chip. So one thing that we're doing also is we are making sure that we are teaching children some blends. So not only are we looking at the individual letters, we also are looking at letters that can blend together to make a sound. So like chip or dog, we would look at that and dissect it and say, okay, well look at this beginning sound, D, D. And then we like to call these word families OG, the OG word family. It goes together, it says og. So it would be d-og, dog. Same thing for frog, that's part of the og word family. So it would be F-R, and then og, frog. So you're going to get them to blend some sounds together as well. So you're working with individual sounds to eventually get them to that point where they can start reading those words. Last, breaking a word and separating it into sounds, which is basically what we did where we're combining and blending sounds together. We're just teaching them to dissect that word so it's easier for them to find those blends, find those beginning and ending sounds to make it easier for them to read that word. And why is why is it important? It's the foundation for spelling and reading. It's where we start. I like to look at it as a building block. You've got to start somewhere, and learning those letter sounds, that's the beginning of it. And as you build up, you're going to get to where they can read, which is ideally the main goal. And then they can spell, they can write, and it's going to just all flow in together. So without this basic form right here that you have, you're not going to be able to get to that point to where it's reading, or it's going to be extremely difficult for your child. Then we're going to move on to phonological awareness. Now, with phonemic awareness, it's those individual sounds we're breaking apart. We're looking at very little parts, okay? With phonological awareness, it's a broader scheme of things. So, to talk about that big definition to start with, it's a broad skill that includes identifying and manipulating units of oral language. For example, words, syllables, like cat, you would say cat. That's one syllable. Rainbow has two syllables. So that's what we're teaching kids. And also onsets and rhymes. So the beginning sound and then the ending that goes with it. In simpler terms, it's how sounds are put together to form words. So over here with phonemic awareness, it's those individual sounds that we're working with. We're getting them to learn to where eventually it will form words. And then phonological awareness is where we're really taking those words, blending all those sounds together, making words, and eventually getting it to where they can read. So some examples that I have is finding words in the text by looking for the first sound. So like over here, where we were trying to get them to look at words, the first sound in words that begin with the same letter. Now what we're going to do is we're going to look into getting them to find that word in a book. So they're going to look for that beginning sound and see if they can find it in a book. 2 is matching pictures to words. So you have a picture, something is familiar to them, they know, they understand. And then you're going to match a word with that. It's bringing that print into the picture, and it's showing them that that picture can be represented by print. Finding words that rhyme. A lot of children's books have rhymes in them, rhyming words in them. And once you've taught the children what rhyming words are, that they're words that sound the same at the end, they can start to find those when they're listening to you read a book to them, and their teacher's reading to them. When they're reading, they can start to notice those rhyming words. And then lastly, matching words to other words. So we've taken those pictures out, and then we're putting the words in there. So they can look and see, okay, these two words, they look the same. If they don't know how to read them, they can use those skills that we got from the phonemic awareness, put the blends together, sound out those individual sounds, and eventually try to read those words and match them up. Why is it so important? It's essential for reading because it's written words that correspond to spoken words. They intertwine with each other. Readers must have that awareness of speech sounds that letters and combinations of letters represent in order to move from printed word to the spoken word, which is reading, and then vice versa, that spoken word to the written word, or getting them to start to spell. So phonemic awareness is just going to get them to that point to where they're reading, they're spelling, they're writing. But without all of these literacy skills that they've learned along the way to help them to develop this phonological awareness, it's going to be extremely difficult for them to get to read. And that is why it is so important. Some examples of things that you could do to utilize those literacy skills, is one thing that I like to do to focus on those letter sounds is I'll have a board with little bubbles on it, little circles, and I'll fill in uppercase and lowercase letters. And then I'll have little circle pieces that I've written those same letters on. And what I'll get the children to do is match up those letter pieces to the letter board where it goes. Now, ideally in my small group, what I would do is I would have everything laid out and they would place it where that goes. If I had a student that was struggling a little bit, I would probably condense that down a little bit and only give them a couple of letters and give them a specific one to look for. So I would say, look at this letter board. This is letter B. Can you find the letter B that matches out of my little pieces? Another way that you could work on seeing comprehension and also speaking and writing skills is using a writing journal. During small group, after you read a book, you could ask a simple question about something that happened in the book, or maybe a concept that you wanted to focus on from the book. You could get them to draw a picture, and that picture, let's say they might not be able to read or write yet, but you could look at that picture and know, okay, did they comprehend what I was asking of them? Did they pay attention? Did they learn something? And then they're speaking to you, you are speaking to them back and forth, you're listening to what they're saying, and then you can write their response down on paper. To help a struggling learner, somebody that maybe had some disabilities, you could write it for them or use highlighter and then let them trace over it. Or if all they could do was draw you a picture, that is fine. You could maybe just get them to reiterate to you what they drew and use their speech to help you check their comprehension on that. So that is just a couple things that I use in the classroom that also help with focusing on those literary skills and building those concepts and things like that. I hope it helps a little bit. So phonemic awareness is having those individual sounds, focusing on those little things, getting those building blocks in there, all those meaty things they're going to need to eventually move on to phonological awareness, which is like the broad scheme of things. And that's where we want to get them to. We want to get the children to that point where they can read, they can write, they can spell, and set them up for success as they get to their upper grades. So I just want to thank you today for listening. I hope whatever I said was able to help you and your journey with your child. And thank you for tuning in with me today.